In a small town, surrounded by dusty roads and quiet fields, lived a boy named Arjun. He was not the kind of boy who impressed teachers or won prizes. In school, his report cards always had the same words written on them: needs to work harder. He often failed his exams, and sometimes he barely managed to pass. His classmates laughed at him, and the neighbors whispered to his parents that he would never amount to anything. To most people, Arjun was a failure, a boy with no future, a zero. At home, he stayed quiet, but inside he carried questions that no one seemed to understand. He was not good with textbooks, yet he loved to explore how things worked. Old radios, broken toys, rusty fans, anything that people threw away caught his attention. He would sit for hours taking them apart, studying the screws, the wires, the gears. His parents scolded him often, telling him he was wasting his time, that these broken things would not feed him tomorrow. But Arjun felt something different. When he held those pieces in his hand, when he tried to put them back together, he felt alive. He did not have the right words for it, but deep inside he knew this was his way of learning. Years passed, and he finished school with great difficulty. Relatives looked at him with pity, and some mocked his parents openly, saying that their son was hopeless. His parents felt ashamed, and Arjun carried that weight in his heart. Yet even as the world called him a failure, there was a quiet flame inside him that refused to go out. He told himself in silence, "Maybe I am not good at what they want me to do, but I will find my own way. I will not stop learning." Since he could not go to college, he turned to the local library. Day after day, he borrowed books on science and invention. He discovered the stories of great minds who had once been failures in the eyes of others. He read about Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before making the light bulb. He read about Albert Einstein, who was once thought to be a poor student. Each story gave him hope. He began to believe that being called a failure today did not mean he would always remain one. Late at night, while others slept, Arjun sat under the dim light of a single bulb, sketching ideas, building small models, and experimenting with broken parts. Many times his machines did not work. Many times they broke apart in his hands. But instead of feeling crushed, he began to see each failure as a step closer to success. Every mistake taught him something new. He was no longer afraid of being wrong. One evening, while repairing an old radio, an idea struck him. He looked around at his village, where people often struggled to buy new tools and machines. What if there was a way to repair and reuse what they already had, instead of throwing it away? That simple thought became the seed of his dream. He started helping neighbors repair their broken fans, bicycles, and radios. At first, people laughed, but when they saw that his repairs worked, they began to trust him. With time, more people came to him. He saved families money, he made old things useful again, and he gained confidence in his hands and his mind. Slowly, the boy who had once been called a failure began to be seen in a new light. But Arjun was not satisfied. He wanted to create something of his own, something that could help not just his village, but many others. He continued learning on his own. Whenever he failed, he reminded himself that failure was not the end, but a teacher. He kept working in silence, building small machines, testing ideas, and dreaming of innovations. His persistence began to pay off. He invented a simple farming tool made from recycled parts that made the hard work of farmers easier and faster. At first, only a few farmers tried it, but soon many wanted it. His invention spread from one village to another. The same neighbors who once whispered that he would never succeed now praised him. His parents, who once felt ashamed, now looked at him with pride. The boy who was once seen as a zero was slowly becoming a hero. His tool caught the attention of people beyond his town. Local newspapers wrote about him. Universities invited him to speak about his work. He, who had once failed to understand textbooks, now stood on stages teaching others about persistence and self-learning. As years passed, Arjun became known not just in his country, but around the world. He developed new technologies, created machines that helped ordinary people, and became a respected innovator. Yet he never forgot his beginnings. When people asked him the secret of his success, he smiled and said, "I failed many times. I was called a zero. But I never stopped learning. I taught myself, I kept going, and every failure became a step toward who I am today. His story spread across the world as a symbol of hope. Students who felt lost found courage in his journey. Struggling dreamers reminded themselves that failure was not permanent. Parents began to see that not every child fits inside the walls of a classroom. Arjun had become more than an innovator. He had become living proof that persistence and self-learning could turn a zero into a hero. And so, the boy who once sat quietly in his room, mocked by neighbors, burdened by shame, rose to shine brighter than anyone had imagined. His life whispered to everyone who heard it. Do not fear failure, do not stop learning, and never give up. For even the smallest flame can light the darkest night.